The Galactic Defense Academy had a motto: excellence through adversity, unity through strength. Which was ironic because most of the cadets couldn't handle a flight of stairs without complaining. Jake Martinez stood in the courtyard of what was supposedly the most prestigious military training facility in the known universe, watching a group of alien cadets struggle to carry their own luggage to the dormitories. One of them, a gelatinous blob named something unpronounceable, had already given up and was just oozing sadly across the pavement. Jake was pretty sure he'd gotten here by mistake. Actually, he was absolutely certain he'd gotten here by mistake. Earth wasn't even supposed to be on the Galactic Council's radar yet. Humanity was still firmly in the pre-space civilization do not contact category, somewhere between quaint and adorably primitive. But apparently some bureaucrat had filed Earth under the wrong tab in their database. His application had somehow made it through. And now here he was, the only human in a school full of aliens who thought humans were basically hairless apes that had learned to use tools. To be fair, they weren't entirely wrong. "You there, cadet?" barked a voice that sounded like gravel being processed through a synthesizer. "Stand up straight. This is a military academy, not a leisure resort." Jake turned to face Commander Velkoth, a towering four-armed alien whose species, the Karnathi, were considered the peak of military discipline in the galaxy. Velkoth had the kind of face that looked like it had never smiled, mostly because it probably hadn't. His forearms were usually crossed in various combinations, suggesting different levels of disappointment. Right now, all four were crossed. Maximum disappointment. "Sir, yes, sir," Jake said, straightening up. Velkoth's eyes, all three of them, narrowed. "You are the human." "Guilty as charged, sir." "I was told we were receiving a cadet from a high-gravity world with primitive but functional military structure." Velkoth looked Jake up and down like he was inspecting a particularly disappointing sandwich. "I was expecting something more impressive." "I'll try to be more impressive tomorrow, sir. I'm a little jet-lagged from the whole interstellar travel thing." One of Velkoth's eyes twitched. Jake was pretty sure that was a bad sign. "You will report to Dormitory 7. Your bunkmate will show you the facility. Physical assessments begin at 0600 tomorrow. Do not be late." Velkoth leaned in closer, and Jake caught a whiff of something like burnt copper. "And do try not to embarrass your species more than you already have simply by existing." "Oh." "I'll do my best, sir." As Velkoth marched away, probably to go crush someone's dreams, a small voice chirped from behind Jake. "He's actually in a good mood today." Jake turned to find what looked like a very nervous bird that had been stretched vertically and given opposable thumbs. The alien was barely 4 feet tall, covered in pale blue feathers, and had eyes the size of dinner plates. "I'm Pip," the alien squeaked. "I'm your bunkmate. Sorry about that. I know everyone probably wanted to bunk with someone from their own species, but I'm from Vila 9 and I'm the only Vilan here this cycle and you're the only human. So they just kind of threw us together." "Jake," he said, offering his hand. Pip stared at it like it might bite him. "It's a handshake, human greeting." "Oh, right." Pip extended a tiny, trembling hand that weighed approximately nothing. "Sorry, I'm just nervous. I've never met a human before. Are you going to eat me?" "What? No, why would I eat you? Your species has forward-facing eyes, that's a predator trait. And I read that humans are omnivores, which means you eat anything. And I'm made of meat, so logically—" "Pip, buddy, I'm not going to eat you." "That's exactly what you'd say if you were planning to eat me." This was going to be a long year. The next morning, Jake discovered that 0600 at the academy meant something different than it did on Earth, mainly because they were on a space station, and there was no sun, and time was a social construct that the aliens had apparently constructed while drunk. The physical assessment facility was massive, filled with equipment that looked like it had been designed by someone who had never actually seen a gym before. There were anti-gravity treadmills, resistance fields, and something that looked suspiciously like a medieval torture device but was labeled core strengthener. About 50 cadets from various species milled around nervously, whispering to each other and shooting glances at Jake. Word had apparently spread that there was a human at the academy, and the consensus seemed to be that he was some kind of exotic zoo animal. "Attention!" Commander Velkoth's voice boomed across the facility. "Today we assess your physical capabilities. Strength, endurance, combat readiness. The standards are high. Most of you will fail. This is normal. We are here to forge you into something less pathetic than you currently are. Motivational speeches were clearly not Velkoth's strong suit. Next to Velkoth stood Lieutenant Kix, the assistant instructor, who appeared to be a jellyfish piloting a mechanical suit. The jellyfish bits pulsed with bioluminescence inside a transparent dome that served as the head of the suit. Kix's mechanical voice had a soothing quality that directly contradicted everything about Velkoth. We'll begin with the standard gravity weight assessment, Kix announced pleasantly. This will measure your basic lifting capacity under controlled conditions. A barbell was wheeled out on a floating platform. It looked completely ordinary to Jake, just a standard barbell with weights on each end. The digital display on the platform read 68.04 kilograms, about 150 pounds. Jake had lifted more than that in high school gym class while half asleep. Who will volunteer to go first? Velkoth asked, his tone suggesting that volunteering was the only correct option. A massive cadet stepped forward. This was Thorn, and he was basically what would happen if a mountain decided to go to military school. His species, the Kralix, were silicon-based life forms that looked like walking boulders with anger management issues. Thorn had been making it very clear since yesterday that he considered himself the alpha of this particular class. I will demonstrate proper technique, Thorn rumbled, his voice like an avalanche in slow motion. He approached the barbell, cracked his knuckles, which sounded like breaking rocks, and gripped the bar with both massive hands. Then he lifted. Or rather, he tried to lift. His whole body strained. His rock-like surface actually started to crack slightly from the effort. With a tremendous heave and what sounded like a small landslide, Thorn managed to get the barbell up to chest height, held it there for approximately 2 seconds, and then dropped it back onto the platform with a clang. Acceptable, Velkoth said, making a note on his datapad. Acceptable? The guy had looked like he was trying to lift a spaceship. Next up was Zira, a 6-legged feline alien with silver fur and a tail that never stopped moving. She'd been talking trash all morning about how her species, the Felixar, were naturally superior athletes. Zira approached the barbell with confidence, gripped it with her front 2 legs, and pulled. Nothing happened. She adjusted her stance, wrapped all 6 legs around the bar in various configurations, and tried again. The barbell rose approximately 3 inches before Zira's legs started shaking violently. She held it there for maybe a second before dropping it and stepping back, breathing hard. Adequate, Velkoth noted. One by one, cadets attempted the lift. Most needed spotters. Several required harnesses attached to anti-gravity assists. One cadet, a methane breather in an environmental suit, simply refused to try and accepted the failing grade on the spot. Pip, when his turn came, looked at the barbell the way someone might look at their own execution. I can't do this, he whispered to Jake. My species evolved in 0.3 G. This is going to kill me. Just do your best, man. Pip approached the barbell like it was a bomb. He wrapped his tiny hands around the bar, closed his eyes, and pulled with what was clearly every ounce of strength in his bird-like body. The barbell didn't even budge. Unsatisfactory, Velkoth said, not unkindly. You may use the assisted lift. Pip shuffled over to a harness system that would do most of the work for him, looking thoroughly defeated. Human, Velkoth called out. You're next. Jake walked over to the barbell while every eye in the facility tracked his movement. The whispers intensified. He could hear snippets. Look so weak. Soft-skin species. Probably can't even. He looked down at the barbell. 150 pounds. He'd done warm-ups with more weight than this. Then it occurred to him, maybe gravity was different here. The station was set to what they called standard, but maybe standard for the galaxy was different than standard for Earth. Only one way to find out. Jake bent down, gripped the barbell with his right hand, and stood up, with one hand, while pulling out his datapad with his left hand to check if he had any messages. The facility went completely silent. Jake glanced up from his datapad to find every single alien staring at him with expressions ranging from shock to horror to what might have been religious awe. He said. Was I supposed to use both hands? Sorry, I can do it again if you want. The silence stretched on for another few seconds before Lieutenant Key's mechanical voice broke it. Commander, The human just lifted the standard gravity weight with one hand while simultaneously operating a personal device. "I can see that, Lieutenant," Velkoth said quietly. His forearms had slowly uncrossed and now hung at his sides, which Jake suspected was the Carnathi equivalent of his jaw hitting the floor. Thorn stepped forward, his rocky face somehow managing to look offended. "That is impossible. The weight was miscalibrated. Test him again." "The weight is not miscalibrated," Kix said. "I personally verified it this morning." "Then he's using enhancement technology," Zira insisted. "Scan him." Velkoth nodded slowly, and Kix activated a scanner. A beam of light swept over Jake from head to toe. "No enhancement technology detected," Kix reported. "No exoskeleton, no neural boosters, no gravitational assists. He's completely baseline." "Baseline?" Thorn repeated. "That's baseline for humans?" Jake shrugged. "I mean, I work out sometimes, but yeah, this is pretty normal." The pandemonium that followed was immediate and loud. Cadets crowded around, all talking at once, some demanding explanations, others insisting it was a trick, and Pip just standing in the corner looking like his entire understanding of the universe had been shattered. Commander Velkoth held up all four hands for silence. "Human," he said slowly. "Explain." Now, Jake stood in front of 50 bewildered aliens and one very suspicious commander, trying to figure out how to explain something that to him was completely normal. "Okay, so here's the thing," Jake started. "Earth has about 1 g of gravity. That's just what we call it, 1 times Earth gravity. And that's what I grew up in, so lifting 150 pounds is just, not that hard." The aliens stared at him blankly. Lieutenant Kix's mechanical appendages clicked rapidly across a datapad. "I'm pulling up Earth's gravitational data now. Stand by." 1 g is the human standard, Velkoth said, his 3 eyes narrowing. "But what is that in actual measurements?" 9.8 meters per second squared, Kix read from the datapad. Then the jellyfish in the dome seemed to pulse irregularly. "That can't be right." "What can't be right?" Jake asked. "That's nearly double standard galactic gravity," Kix said, and there was something almost like fear in that mechanical voice. "The recommended gravity for civilized worlds is 0.4 to 0.6 g. Earth is at 1.0. That's the math is, that means you've been training your entire life at double our gravity." Pip made a sound like a squeaky toy being stepped on. "Hold on," Thorn interjected, his rocky brow furrowing. "My homeworld has 0.7 g. I'm from one of the highest gravity worlds in the Academy. How is a soft-skinned species from a 2G world even alive, let alone walking around?" "It's not 2G, Jake corrected. "It's 1G. That's our standard. Your standard is our extreme," Zira said quietly. "That's weight. That means every single day of your life, you've been essentially wearing a weighted training suit that's double what we use." "I mean, when you put it that way, it sounds way more dramatic than it is." Velkoth's expression had shifted from suspicious to calculating. "Lieutenant Kix, what else does the Earth data indicate?" Kix's mechanical appendages flew across the datapad. "Atmospheric oxygen content is 21%. That's high, very high. Most species function optimally at 14 to 16%. At 21%, humans are essentially living in an oxygen-rich environment that would be considered performance-enhancing for most species." "So I breathe better?" Jake asked. "You breathe aggressively," Kix corrected. "Your cellular respiration is operating at what we would consider enhanced levels constantly, and the gravity, combined with that oxygen level, it means your musculoskeletal system and cardiovascular system have been overbuilt for standard galactic conditions." Pip had wandered over, his huge eyes somehow even wider than normal. "Jake, are you telling me that your entire planet is basically a military training facility?" "No, it's just a planet. We have beaches and stuff." "Beaches with double gravity and excessive oxygen," Velkoth muttered. He turned to address the assembled cadets. "It appears we have a situation. The human is not enhanced. He is simply from a world that is, for lack of a better term, naturally hostile to galactic standard life." "Death world," someone whispered from the back of the crowd. The term rippled through the assembled aliens like a shockwave. "That's a bit harsh," Jake protested. "Earth is nice. We have pizza." "Your planet is classified as a Class 7 hazard world," Kix read from the datapad. "High gravity, elevated oxygen levels, extreme temperature variations, significant tectonic activity, and a biosphere characterized by intense competition and predation. It's marked in the database as "do not colonize under any circumstances." But humans colonized it already, Zira said slowly. Because they're from there. Because they evolved there. The implications of that statement settled over the crowd like a heavy blanket. Thorne stepped forward again, but this time his posture was less aggressive and more confused. My species pride ourselves on our strength. We are the strongest in the academy. That is our identity. You're still really strong, Jake offered. Like, way stronger than humans in a lot of ways, probably. I struggled with a weight you lifted with one hand, Thorne said flatly, while checking your messages. My entire sense of self-worth is experiencing what I believe you humans call an existential crisis. I mean, you're made of rock, dude. That's way cooler than anything I can do. I am made of silicon-based minerals that evolved in 0.7 G. You are made of squishy carbon that evolved in double gravity. This is not cooler. This is terrifying. Velkoth held up his hands again. This assessment has revealed information that requires immediate administrative review. However, we will continue with the remaining physical tests. I want a full capability analysis on the human. Commander, Kix said quietly. Are you sure that's wise? If his baseline strength is this far above standard, we have no idea what his other capabilities might be. Precisely why we need to find out, Lieutenant. Velkoth turned his three-eyed gaze on Jake. Cadet Martinez, how do you feel about endurance testing? Jake shrugged. Sure, I guess. How far are we running? 10 kilometers. Cool. Is that with or without obstacles? The facility went quiet again. That was supposed to be an intimidating distance, Velkoth said slowly. You seem unintimidated. I mean, it's 6.2 miles, right? That's not that bad. I did cross country in high school. Pip made another squeaky toy sound. Perhaps, Velkoth said, and there was something dangerous in his tone now, something that suggested he was starting to enjoy this. We should find out exactly what not that bad means to a Deathworlder. Jake was starting to suspect he'd made a tactical error in being honest, but it was too late now. The Academy was about to learn what humans considered normal, and Jake had a feeling they weren't going to like it. The Academy's endurance track was a 10-kilometer loop that wound through various sections of the station, incorporating elevation changes, environmental zones, and what the instructors cheerfully called motivational obstacles. It was designed to push cadets to their absolute limits while still being technically survivable. The record time was 3 hours and 47 minutes, held by a Karnathi from the previous year's class. Jake stood at the starting line along with the other cadets, all of whom were stretching and doing breathing exercises and generally preparing themselves for what was clearly considered a major ordeal. Several had already consumed performance supplements. A few were being fitted with monitoring equipment by medical staff. Pip was not at the starting line. Pip was in the medical bay, recovering from the psychological trauma of learning his roommate was basically a biological weapon. Listen up, Velkoth announced. The endurance run is not about speed. It is about completion. Pace yourselves. Use the rest stations. There is no shame in taking breaks. This is a marathon, not a sprint. How many rest stations are there? Jake asked. 5, evenly spaced every 2 kilometers. They are equipped with oxygen supplements, hydration, and medical staff. Jake nodded. That seemed reasonable. Cadets, Velkoth continued. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Begin. The assembled aliens started jogging at what Jake could only describe as an extremely leisurely pace. It was the kind of pace you'd use if you were walking somewhere but wanted to arrive slightly faster than normal. Jake started running at what he considered a moderate pace, the kind of speed he'd use for an easy training run. He passed the entire group of cadets in approximately 30 seconds. Behind him, he heard confused shouting. Is the human sprinting? Someone yelled. He's going to burn out in the first kilometer, Thorne called out. Classic amateur mistake. Jake just kept running. The track was well lit, clearly marked, and the station's artificial gravity was still set to that standard galactic level, which meant it felt like he was running on the moon. Everything was easier here, lighter, less taxing on his body. He reached the first rest station at the 2-kilometer mark in about 8 minutes. The medical staff stationed there looked confused to see him. Are you injured? one of them asked, a slug-like being that Jake recognized as Dr. Murph from the Academy's medical staff. Nope, just passing through. But the rest station? Don't need a rest yet, thanks though. Jake waved and kept running. Behind him, he could hear Dr. Murph talking into a communicator. Commander, the human just passed the first rest station without stopping. I repeat, without stopping. Is this normal? Jake couldn't hear Velkoth's response, but he imagined it was probably something along the lines of, nothing about the human is normal. The track continued through different sections of the station. There was a section with increased air resistance to simulate wind. There was a section with a slight incline to work the legs differently. There were obstacles like walls to climb over and tunnels to crawl through. Jake handled all of it without breaking stride. At the 4-kilometer mark, he passed the second rest station, more confused medical staff. Do you need oxygen supplementation? Someone called out. I'm good, Jake called back. His breathing was elevated but steady. His legs felt fine. His cardiovascular system, overbuilt for Earth's higher oxygen requirements and gravity, was handling this like it was a warm-up. By the 6-kilometer mark, Jake realized he was actually enjoying this. The rhythm of running, the steady breathing, the way his body felt like it was operating exactly as designed. This was nice. At the third rest station, Dr. Murph was waiting for him personally. Cadet Martinez, I need to scan you, the doctor said firmly. I'm fine, Doc, really. You have been running at a sustained pace of 4 minutes per kilometer for 18 minutes without stopping. That is not fine. That is alarming. Hold still. Dr. Murph waved a medical scanner over Jake while he jogged in place. Heart rate is elevated but stable. Respiratory rate is high but controlled. Lactic acid buildup is minimal. Hydration levels are adequate. Dr. Murph's eye stalks drooped in confusion. You're not even close to exhaustion. Yeah, this is a pretty nice run. Good track you guys have here. This is supposed to be an extreme endurance test. I mean, it's a 10K. That's like, regular running distance. Dr. Murph was silent for a moment. Your species runs this distance regularly? For recreation? Some people run marathons. Those are like 42 kilometers. The doctor made a sound that might have been a whimper. Jake continued running. By the 8-kilometer mark, he finally encountered other cadets. They were approaching the second rest station, looking exhausted while he was lapping them. Thorn was among them, his rocky exterior showing signs of stress fractures from the exertion. Human, Thorn wheezed as Jake passed. How? Just keep moving, buddy, you got this. At the 9-kilometer mark, Zira caught up to him. Or rather, she tried to. The feline alien was pushing herself hard, clearly determined not to be outdone by a human. I can keep up, she panted, her 6 legs pumping furiously. My species are predators. We have stamina. That's great, Jake said encouragingly. But maybe don't push yourself too hard. You're breathing pretty heavy. I'm fine, Zira insisted, even though she very clearly was not fine. They ran together for another half-kilometer before Zira's breathing became dangerously labored. Jake slowed down. Hey, seriously, you should take a break. No, Zira gasped. Must, prove, can keep up. Then she collapsed. Jake caught her before she hit the ground, all 6 of her legs giving out simultaneously. Medical emergency at the 9.5-kilometer mark, Jake said into his communicator while gently lowering Zira to the ground. Cadet down. Respiratory distress. Dr. Murph's voice came back immediately. Stay with her. Team is en route. Jake stayed with Zira, monitoring her breathing until the medical team arrived on a hover stretcher. They loaded her up, gave Jake a look that was equal parts impressed and horrified, and zoomed off toward the medical bay. Jake finished the last half-kilometer alone. His final time 52 minutes and 33 seconds. Commander Velkoth was waiting at the finish line with Lieutenant Kix, both of them holding data pads and wearing expressions that Jake was starting to recognize as confused but scientifically interested. Cadet Martinez, Velkoth said slowly. You just completed the endurance run in less than a tenth of the record time, without stopping at any rest station, while carrying on a conversation with medical staff at multiple points. Is Zira okay? Jake asked, bending over to catch his breath. She will recover, Kick said. Dr. Murph reports that she pushed herself to respiratory failure trying to maintain your pace. She has been advised not to attempt to match a human's endurance in the future. I wasn't even going that fast, Jake protested. You were running at a pace that our physiologists calculate should have caused complete muscular failure in approximately 8 to 10 minutes for a human-sized organism, Kick said. But it didn't because, and I'm reading directly from Dr. Murph's report here, humans are apparently capable of persistence hunting, an evolutionary adaptation that allows them to literally run their prey to death over extended distances. Jake straightened up. Okay, when you put it like that, it sounds way more metal than it actually is. You're a pursuit predator, Velkoth said, and there was something almost like respect in his voice now. Your species evolved to simply not stop chasing things until they collapsed from exhaustion. I mean, we also evolved to eat pizza and watch television, so it balances out. This does not balance out, Velkoth said firmly. This is strategically relevant information. If one human can do this, then an army of humans could, hypothetically speaking. Commander, Kix interrupted gently. Perhaps we should complete the assessment before jumping to strategic applications. Right, yes. Velkoth made a note on his datapad. There is still one more test. Combat simulation. And given what we've learned today, I think we need to recalibrate our expectations for what the human is capable of. Jake wiped sweat from his forehead and grinned. So what's the combat scenario? Rescue operation in a hostile environment. Limited resources. Significant environmental hazards. Standard protocol is to use advanced equipment and careful planning. Sounds fun. Velkoth's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. You think a hostile environment rescue operation sounds fun? I mean, yeah, that's basically what training is for, right? Somewhere in the back of Velkoth's mind, a small voice was starting to suggest that recruiting humans might have been a terrible idea. The rest of his mind was starting to think it might have been the best idea ever. The virtual reality combat chamber was the Academy's pride and joy. A fully immersive simulation environment that could replicate any battlefield, any conditions, and any threat level. It had been designed by the best military engineers in the galaxy and was considered the ultimate training tool. It had also, Jake noticed, a lot of warning labels. Simulation can cause disorientation, nausea, psychological distress, and in rare cases, temporary paralysis. Participants proceed at their own risk. Great. Fun. Jake stood in the chamber's preparation area along with several other cadets who'd recovered enough from the endurance run to attempt the combat scenario. Thorn was there, looking determined to redeem himself. A few others Jake didn't know well were gearing up with impressive-looking equipment. Pip was there too, having been cleared by medical staff and insisting he wanted to support his roommate, even though he looked like a stiff breeze would knock him over. The scenario is as follows, Lieutenant Kix explained, projected on a screen in holographic form since bringing the jellyfish mech into the simulation would be cheating. You are part of a search and rescue team. A pilot has crashed in a hostile environment. The atmosphere is toxic, the temperature is extreme, and there are hostile indigenous life forms. Your objective is to locate the downed pilot, marked by a beacon, and extract them to the safe zone. You will be equipped with standard gear. Velkoth stepped forward. Most cadets approach this scenario with careful planning. They use environmental suits, atmospheric filters, long-range weapons, and support drones. The record completion time is 47 minutes. Most teams take over an hour. Many teams fail entirely. Are there any questions? Jake raised his hand. What's the toxic atmosphere? Kix checked the datapad. A combination of sulfur dioxide, chlorine gas, and carbon monoxide at dangerous concentrations. Exposure would incapacitate most species within minutes. What's the temperature? 43 degrees Celsius, approximately 109 degrees Fahrenheit. Jake nodded. That was hot, but not unbearable. And the indigenous life forms? Aggressive predators. Pack hunters. Think of them as hostile fauna that coordinate attacks. Cool. So we've got toxic air, hot weather, and angry wildlife. Anything else? Limited visibility due to atmospheric conditions, and the terrain is rocky with poor footing. All right. Jake looked at the gear laid out in front of them. environmental suits, rebreathers, weapons, portable shields, med kits, and various high-tech gadgets. He picked up a basic first aid kit and a knife. "I'm ready." Everyone stared at him. "That's all you're taking?" Thorne rumbled, gesturing at his own loadout, which included approximately 30 kilograms of equipment. "I mean, I need to move fast, right? All that gear will slow me down." "The gear will keep you alive," Velkoth said. "The toxic atmosphere alone." "How toxic are we talking? Like immediately deadly, or more of a gradual thing?" Kix's hologram flickered. "For most species, consciousness would be lost in 3 to 5 minutes without respiratory protection. But not immediately deadly. Okay, I can work with that." "Cadet Martinez," Velkoth said, and his voice had taken on a tone that suggested he was exercising enormous patience. "You will take proper safety equipment, or you will not participate in this exercise." Jake looked at the commander, then at the pile of gear, then back at the commander. "Tell you what, let me try it my way. If it goes wrong, I'll tap out and do it properly. Deal?" Velkoth's forearms crossed in that maximum disapproval configuration. But there was something in his eyes, a curiosity, a need to know just how far this human's capabilities extended. "Fine," Velkoth said, "but I am watching your biometrics closely. At the first sign of real distress, you're being pulled out." "Fair enough." The simulation began. Jake found himself standing in a rocky wasteland under a greenish sky. The air smelled like rotten eggs, and his eyes immediately started watering from the sulfur. The heat was intense, the kind of heat that made breathing feel like work. His heads-up display showed the pilot's beacon approximately 2 kilometers away through rough terrain. Other cadets were spawning in around him, emerging into the simulation with their full gear, checking equipment, and forming up into careful formations. Jake just started running. The toxic atmosphere burned his throat and lungs. His eyes were streaming tears. But humans, as it turned out, had evolved on a planet with incredibly diverse environmental conditions. Earth had deserts and jungles and Arctic wastelands. It had volcanoes that spewed toxic gases. It had regions where people lived at high altitudes with thin air. Humanity's superpower wasn't just strength or endurance, it was adaptability. Jake's respiratory system, already overbuilt for high oxygen efficiency, started adjusting to the toxic atmosphere. It hurt. It hurt a lot. But his body was processing the poison, filtering it, dealing with it in ways that would have impressed a toxicologist. He could do this for a few minutes, maybe 5, maybe 10 if he pushed it. He just needed to be fast. The terrain was rocky and unstable, exactly as advertised. But Jake had grown up hiking and running cross-country. His feet found purchase instinctively, his balance adjusting to the uneven ground. Hostile indigenous life forms appeared, simulated creatures that looked like a cross between wolves and scorpions. They moved to surround him, pack hunting behavior. Jake didn't have a weapon beyond the knife. He also didn't need one. He dodged the first creature's lunge, used its momentum against it, and sent it tumbling over the rocky edge. The second one he simply outran. The third tried to block his path, and Jake vaulted over it using a rock as a springboard. His vision was starting to blur from the toxic atmosphere. His lungs felt like they were on fire. His skin was developing a concerning rash from the chemical exposure, but he could see the crash site. The simulated pilot was slumped against the wreckage, a dummy designed to weigh about 70 kilograms. Jake grabbed it, threw it over his shoulder in a fireman's carry, and started running back toward the safe zone. His body was screaming at him now. The poison was affecting his nervous system. His coordination was starting to suffer, but he'd been running on borrowed time anyway, and he had just enough left to make it. He crossed into the safe zone and collapsed to his knees, dumping the pilot dummy safely on the ground. His time, 11 minutes, 42 seconds. The simulation ended, and Jake found himself back in the preparation area, gasping for breath while medical scanners swept over him. Minor chemical burns, Dr. Murph reported, appearing with remarkable speed. Respiratory inflammation. Mild toxic exposure across all major systems. Nothing permanent. He'll recover fully in a few hours with treatment. Jake gave a thumbs up while coughing violently. The other cadets were still in the simulation, carefully coordinating their approach with full environmental protection. Thorne appeared next to Jake, having tapped out of the simulation. "You just ran through a toxic hellscape, fought off predators with no weapons, and completed the scenario in a quarter of the record time while actively being poisoned." "Yeah," Jake wheezed. Probably should have taken the rebreather. Probably, Thorne agreed. But then we wouldn't have learned that humans have ridiculous toxin resistance. Dr. Murph was scanning Jake's readings with what looked like professional fascination. Your liver is processing the toxins at an accelerated rate. Your kidneys are filtering the chemicals efficiently. Your skin is already beginning to heal from the chemical burns. It's as if your species evolved in an environment with constant low-level toxic exposure. We kind of did, Jake managed between coughs. Industrial pollution, car exhaust, household chemicals, plants that are poisonous for fun. Earth is basically a chemistry experiment gone wrong. Earth is a nightmare planet, Pip said, his huge eyes somehow conveying both horror and admiration. You're from a nightmare planet and you're just walking around like it's normal. Because it is normal, Jake said, for us. Commander Velkoth approached, all four arms hanging loosely at his sides. He stood there for a long moment just looking at Jake with his three eyes, and Jake couldn't quite read his expression. Finally, Velkoth spoke. Cadet Martinez, what you just did was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I have witnessed in 20 years of military instruction. Can it be both, sir? It is absolutely both. Velkoth turned to address the assembled cadets and instructors. What we have learned today is that human baseline capabilities far exceed what we considered possible for an unenhanced biological organism. The human demonstrated strength approximately double our expectations, endurance that exceeds our long-distance specialists, and environmental resistance that borders on the absurd. So I passed? Jake asked. Passed? Velkoth's mandibles twitched in what might have been the Karnathi equivalent of a laugh. Cadet, you have fundamentally altered our understanding of what biological organisms are capable of. You didn't pass. You broke the assessment scale. Lieutenant Kix's hologram flickered with what seemed like amusement. The simulation assumed you would be incapacitated by the toxic atmosphere within 5 minutes. You lasted nearly 12 while running at full speed and engaging in physical combat. The system literally didn't have parameters for what you just did. Thorne placed a heavy, rocky hand on Jake's shoulder. I owe you an apology, human. I thought you were weak because you are small and made of soft tissue. I was wrong. You are not weak, you are terrifying. I'm really not trying to be terrifying, Jake protested. That is what makes it more terrifying, Zira said, having limped in from the medical bay with Dr. Murph's permission. Her 6 legs were moving slowly, but her eyes were bright with respect. You think this is normal? You don't understand that what you can do is extraordinary. It's just evolution, Jake said. We adapted to our environment, same as everyone else. Most species adapted to their environment by developing intelligence, cooperation, and technology, Kix said. Humans adapted by becoming individually capable of surviving nearly anything their planet could throw at them, and then developed intelligence, cooperation, and technology on top of that. Oh, Jake said, as the implications of that statement settled in. When you put it that way, it does sound kind of intense. Velkoth made another note on his datapad. I am filing a report with the Academy administration. We need to completely restructure our assessment protocols if we're going to accommodate more humans. More humans? Jake asked. Your species has been approved for full Academy recruitment, Velkoth said. Apparently the Galactic Council has reconsidered Earth's classification. If one human can perform at this level, then humans represent a significant potential military asset. Jake wasn't sure how he felt about that. On one hand, it was cool that humanity was being recognized as capable. On the other hand, being classified as a military asset seemed like it might come with some complicated implications. How many humans are they recruiting? Pip asked nervously. Kix checked the datapad. The next class will include approximately 50 human cadets. The room went very quiet. 50, Thorne repeated slowly. 50 Deathworlders, in one place, training together. Is that a problem? Jake asked. No, Velkoth said, but his voice suggested it might actually be a huge problem. It's just that we're going to need to completely redesign our training facilities, update our medical protocols, recalibrate all of our equipment, and possibly reinforce some of the structural supports in the dormitories. Why the structural supports? Jake asked. Because if one human can lift double the standard weight, Then 50 humans exercising simultaneously might actually stress the station's gravity plating beyond design specifications. Oh, that's fair. Dr. Murph finished treating Jake's chemical burns with some kind of healing gel that made his skin tingle. You're cleared for normal activities, but try not to poison yourself again for at least a week. Your body needs time to fully purge the toxins. No problem, Doc. As the medical staff packed up their equipment and the other cadets filtered out of the chamber, still discussing what they'd witnessed, Jake found himself alone with Pip, Thorne, Zira, and the instructors. So, Jake said, same time tomorrow for training? Thorne laughed, a sound like rocks in a tumbler. Tomorrow, the human asks if we want more training, as if today was not enough. Today was assessment, Jake said. Tomorrow is when the real work starts, right? Velkoth regarded him with what might have been approval. You have the right attitude, Cadet Martinez. But perhaps we will start with something less dramatic tomorrow. Perhaps basic tactical training. Sounds good, sir. As they left the combat chamber, Pip sidled up next to Jake, his feathers ruffled with anxiety. Jake, Pip said quietly, are all humans like you? Like me, how? Strong, fast, terrifying, able to survive things that should kill them. Jake thought about it. He thought about the athletes back home who were way stronger than him, the marathon runners who made his 52-minute 10K look slow, the free climbers, the deep-sea divers, the people who lived in extreme environments and thought nothing of it. Honestly, Pip, I'm pretty average for a human, maybe slightly above average on a good day. Pip made that squeaky toy sound again. If you're average, the little alien said, then the galaxy is going to have to seriously reconsider its position on a lot of things. Jake grinned. Welcome to Earth, buddy. We're weird, we know we're weird, and we're just happy to be here. As they walked back to their dormitory, Jake could hear the whispers following them through the corridors. The human, the Death Worlder, the one who broke the assessment scale. It was going to be a long year. It was going to be a great year. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Defense Academy Administration was held at 0700 the next morning, which Jake knew because the entire station seemed to be buzzing with activity when he woke up. Pip was already awake, staring at his datapad with an expression of mixed awe and terror. What's wrong? Jake asked, stretching and immediately forgetting that the ceiling was lower than he was used to. His hand smacked into it with a dull thunk. The Academy Administration is in emergency session, Pip said. They're calling it the human situation. The human situation? That's what they're calling it. Capital T, capital H, capital S. It's in the official memo. Jake peered over Pip's shoulder at the datapad. Sure enough, there it was. Emergency Administrative Session RE, the human situation, and necessary facility modifications. Huh, that's dramatic. Jake, they're talking about redesigning the entire academy. The entire thing. Because of you. Not just because of me, Jake protested. Because of humans in general, right? You're the only human they have data on. You are the sample size. You are the entire statistical distribution. Every decision they make is based on what you did yesterday. Jake sat down on his bunk, which creaked ominously under his weight. So no pressure. No pressure, Pip agreed, his voice suggesting there was, in fact, a lot of pressure. The datapad pinged with a new message. Pip glanced at it and his feathers stood on end. We've been summoned to the administration meeting. We have? You have. I'm your assigned support personnel, so I have to come too. They want you to answer questions about human baseline capabilities. 20 minutes later, Jake found himself in a conference room that was way too fancy for someone who had only been at the academy for 2 days. The room was filled with high-ranking officers from various species, all of whom were staring at him like he was a particularly interesting science experiment. Commander Velkoth was there, along with Lieutenant Kix and Dr. Murph. There were also several people Jake didn't recognize, including a distinguished-looking Carnathi with 6 arms instead of 4, which apparently indicated higher rank. Cadet Martinez, the 6-armed Carnathi said. I am Admiral Krathnik, Director of the Galactic Defense Academy. Please sit. Jake sat. Pip hovered nervously beside him, trying to take up as little space as possible. Yesterday's assessment, the Admiral continued, has raised some significant questions about our understanding of human capabilities. Commander Velkoth has provided his report. but we need clarification on several points. Yes, sir, I'll help however I can. First question. Is what you demonstrated yesterday truly baseline for your species? No genetic modification, no enhancement, no special training? I mean, I played sports in school and worked out sometimes, but yeah, that's baseline. I'm pretty average for a human. The assembled officers exchanged glances. Second question. Are there humans significantly more capable than you? Jake thought about Olympic athletes, special forces soldiers, professional fighters. Yes, sir. There are humans who are way stronger, faster, and tougher than me. I'm like, maybe slightly above average on a good day. More glances. Someone made a note on a data pad that seemed to take a very long time. Third question. How do humans feel about military service? That varies. Some people love it, some people don't. We have a long history of organized warfare, if that's what you're asking. A long history, Dr. Murph interjected. I've been reading Earth's historical database. Humans have been engaged in continuous warfare for their entire recorded history. They've weaponized everything from sticks to nuclear fission. They've developed tactics, strategies, and military traditions spanning thousands of years. Is that bad? Jake asked. It's not bad or good, Admiral Krathnik said carefully. It's simply information we need to consider. A species with your physical capabilities and your experience with organized conflict represents a significant variable in galactic military dynamics. We're not trying to take over the galaxy or anything, Jake said quickly. We're just happy to be part of the community. We understand that, the Admiral said, but you must understand our position. We have just discovered that there is a species from a high-gravity, high-oxygen death world with advanced technology, extensive military history, and individual physical capabilities that exceed our combat specialists. This requires careful consideration. Jake was starting to understand that he might have accidentally made humanity seem way more intimidating than intended. Sir, for what it's worth, humans are really good at cooperation. We've been working together in large groups for thousands of years. We're social, we value teamwork, and we generally try to be friendly. You're also persistence predators who can run their prey to death, have strength-to-weight ratios that defy our previous understanding of biology, and can survive in toxic environments that would kill most galactic citizens, Velkoth added, not unkindly. Okay, yes, but we also invented ice cream and comic books, so it balances out. Admiral Krathnik's mandibles twitched. Cadet, I don't think you fully appreciate the impact your species is going to have on the galactic community. Probably not, sir. Let me put it this way, the Admiral said. We are going to have to completely redesign our training protocols. We're going to have to update our equipment standards. We're going to have to revise our assumptions about biological limits. And we're going to have to do all of this before 50 more humans arrive next semester. 50 humans who are probably more capable than me, Jake added helpfully. The room went quiet for a moment. Right, the Admiral said. 50 humans who are probably more capable, which means we have approximately 4 months to prepare the Academy for what amounts to an invasion of Deathworlders with good intentions. When you phrase it like that, it sounds really intense, Jake said. It is intense, Cadet, it is very intense. The meeting continued for another hour, with various officials asking Jake questions about Earth, human biology, human culture, and human military capabilities. By the end of it, Jake felt like he'd accidentally become humanity's ambassador, which was terrifying because he was just a guy who'd signed up for military school. When they were finally dismissed, Pip and Jake walked back through the corridors in silence. That was a lot, Jake said eventually. You just convinced the entire Academy administration that humans are simultaneously friendly and terrifying, Pip said. I'm not sure how you managed that, but you did. I was just being honest. I know. That's what makes it work. Over the next few weeks, Jake watched as the Academy transformed around him. New equipment was installed in the gym, rated for higher weight tolerances. The endurance track was expanded and given a human difficulty option. The combat simulations were updated with new parameters that accounted for ridiculous toxin resistance and persistence hunting behaviors. And the other cadets started approaching him differently. Thorn became something like a friend. His initial hostility replaced by genuine respect and a desire to understand how humans got so strong. They started training together, with Jake helping Thorn work on his endurance while Thorn taught Jake about tactical mineral formations, which was apparently a thing. Zira recovered from her respiratory incident and immediately asked Jake to help her improve her stamina. She approached it like a competition, which Jake appreciated. He learned that Felixar were incredibly competitive by nature, and Zira was determined not to be outdone by anyone, even a Death Worlder. Pip became Jake's unofficial sidekick, following him around and documenting everything for what he called anthropological research, but was really just fascination with his weird human roommate. The little Velan had gotten over his fear and replaced it with enthusiastic curiosity. Other cadets started asking questions. How much could humans lift? How far could they run? What environments could they survive? What did they eat? Could they really consume toxins for recreation? The questions were endless, and Jake did his best to answer honestly, though he suspected every answer made humans seem more ridiculous. The Academy established a new tradition, human benchmark training. Once a week, Jake would demonstrate some aspect of human capability, and the other cadets would try to match it using whatever methods they had available. It became something of an entertainment event, with cadets gathering to watch and place bets on who could come closest to matching the humans' performance. Jake became a minor celebrity, but also just one of the cadets. He studied tactics with everyone else, learned about galactic history, practiced with weapons designed for various species, and generally tried to be a decent person in an alien environment. Commander Velkoth never quite lost his expression of mild concern when dealing with Jake. But there was respect there now. The commander had even started asking Jake's opinion on human-specific training protocols for when the next wave of cadets arrived. One evening, about 6 weeks into the semester, Jake received a message on his datapad. It was from Earth, from the recruitment office. Dear Cadet Martinez, we hope this message finds you well. We wanted to inform you that due to the success of your initial assessment, the Galactic Council has approved expanded recruitment from Earth. The next Academy class will include 50 human cadets, as you've probably been informed. What you might not know is that we've already received over 10,000 applications. Humanity is excited to join the galactic community, and you've shown them what's possible. No pressure, but you're basically our first impression. Try not to break anything else. Good luck, and congratulations on representing Earth so well. Respectfully, Commander Sarah Walsh, Earth Recruitment Office. Jake showed the message to Pip, who read it and made a thoughtful chirping sound. 10,000 applications for 50 slots, Pip said. That means the humans they select are going to be the best of the best. Yeah, which means they're going to be even more capable than you. Probably. The Academy is going to be chaos. Definitely. Pip looked up at Jake with those huge eyes. Are you worried? Jake thought about it. He thought about 50 humans showing up, all of them probably more athletic than him, all of them ready to prove themselves. He thought about the Academy trying to handle a sudden influx of Death Worlders. He thought about Commander Velkoth's expression when he realized what was coming. Nah, Jake said, grinning. It's going to be hilarious. And somewhere in the administration building, Admiral Krathnik was having a very similar thought, except his version ended with, and possibly catastrophic. The galaxy wasn't ready for one human. It definitely wasn't ready for 50. But ready or not, they were coming, and Jake couldn't wait to see what happened next.